Hi, this is Denise Matthew. I hope you're doing well. Back again for another week of the transits. So we have a few things happening this week as usual. The one thing that I think that might really change up the energy is this idea that we do have the sun moving into the gate 34 and we do have the earth moving into the gate 20. When we have this kind of transit where we already have the nodes that have been transiting this energy for a while, the north node has been transiting the gate 20 and the south node has been transiting the gate 34. So it feels like it's a potential activation of the energy. Whenever we talk about the nodes, we're talking about this idea of the environment that's all around us. You could say it's if we have a play, it would be the set. So this is the energy that's all around us and what we've sort of been working through. These particular transits with the gate 34 and also the gate 20 can be a little bit more impactful if you carry any of the integration circuit. The integration circuit is it's a minor circuit, but it has a lot of power within it. It consists of the gate 20, the gate 10, the gate 34, and also the gate 57. So you could say that it comes together as kind of a puzzle. The 2034 is part of the puzzle. The gate 20 is talking about the idea of existential energy or being in the now, or this concept of seeing the world through the place of the now. So when we think about reality of time, the only reality that actually happens is in the now. The reality, there is no reality in the future and there's no reality in the past. When we're talking about what's really happening, whatever's happening is happening right in this moment. So that's what this is really talking about. It's a space between the past and the future. Eckhart Tolle talks a lot about the power of now, and that's truly talking about this existential energy of being in this present moment. That's actually the energy that we've been having, or we've had as a background frequency since about September 2021. And the gate 34 is basically, you could say, the most powerful gate of the human design body graph. This is an energy of a gate that actually can power three different channels. Not only is the gate 34 able to power three channels, but it also has this, what they call an asexual expression of the energy. It's less about your sexual nature or something like that. It really is this idea of this concept of the sacral center always being the focus of how we can reproduce and how we can make more. It's life force energy. And I mean, that's the tribalness of how we get more people on planet Earth. So the gate 34 is concerned primarily with survival of the individual, or survival of us. Because without that individual survival, it would be difficult to live on planet Earth, because you wouldn't really know what could be harmful to you. So it is this kind of, what do I need to do to be safe? What do I need to do to continue to thrive and to be in the Maya? And when we look at the gate 20, like I said, it's the existential energy, looking at the now, what is presently a potential that could be a problem for me. The other perspective is we have the gate 57, which clicks into it as well. Gate 57 is one of the most intuitive energies of the whole body graph as well. It's the only awareness of the whole integration circuit. So if we don't have the awareness of the gate 57, a lot of times we don't actually know where we're putting all this busyness and where we're putting all this energy. The gate 10 is also part of the integration circuit, and this is how we behave in the world. But it's also this concept of, what are we doing with this busyness? What are we doing with this energy? Are we doing things for ourselves, or do we have a tendency to be doing it for others? Because this is energy that is such a powerhouse. It needs to be expended, it needs to be used up, because the 3420 goes directly from the sacral center, which is the most powerful motor in the whole body graph, directly to the throat. So it needs to be out in the world kind of expressing energy. But because we know that the sacral center is defined, automatically you're going to be a generator type. And in this case, you're going to be a pure manifesting generator. It is one of the four manifesting channels, the 2034. And that means that it has potential for manifestation, just like the other channels. The difference between this channel and other manifestation channels is that because it comes through the sacral, the key is that we always have to respond for it to work the best way. If we're out manifesting with this energy and it's not something that we're doing in response, then that could mean that it's not going to work as we want it to. So if we go back to the concept that since September, we've had this particular type of energy in our background frequency affecting everybody in general, but potentially affecting people who have part of the integration circuit even more. So we could have a lot of people sort of manifesting out in the world or trying to make things happen, but not having it work because they're not waiting to respond. They're just out there doing things. Well, I want to do this. It came to my mind. I'm going to go out and manifest it. So when we're out there manifesting and we're not responding to anything, that's when a lot of things may not be potentially working for us. So with the sun and the earth coming in to connect with the nodes, this is just telling us another perspective of this theme. And when we look at this particular energy, we're always going to look at it as a mixture of the mystical and the mundane, we could say, because the gate 20 is the existential energy of the now, but we are in the present moment in the mundane energy, but we're also having a potential for a mystical experience because we find that the enlightenment that can come from the mundane, this ability to see the spiritual connection or to have spiritual, you could say even satori's within the mundane world, to be in the simplicity of life and just be walking around in life, being open to nature, being open to all the things that are around you, and suddenly just having this mystical experience that gives you knowledge that you didn't know, finding the magic and the mysticism within the mundane. I mean, this is what we're talking about when we're having this energy. So within this busyness and this potential to have even more of a busy energy of people wanting to go out and manifest and wanting to get things done and just needing to move your energy and to kind of just go and do something. So instead of actually just kind of going out in a frenzy, which is potential for a lot of people to be doing this week, is the other perspective is that we could be looking at how can we connect with our spirituality within the busyness or within the mundane, within the Maya? How can we connect with that higher version of who we are? There's one thing that Ra Uru said once, and I read it, and it kind of stuck with me. It was this concept that the world is our ashram. In fact, a lot of times we can go to spiritual places or we can go to particular retreats or something that is meant to kind of evolve us in some way. And it doesn't always work as we expect it to. And sometimes it does. But the reality is that there are so many moments in our life that we could actually see the beauty and the spiritual connection, and we can be uplifted or up leveled in some way spiritually by just being in that moment, by being in the connection with something bigger than ourselves, by seeing that there is nothing that is really by chance and that we're part of this whole puzzle of life and we're part of this whole trajectory of life and that we're always being led, the synchronicities, the things that show us that there is some purpose, there is a place for us all, and there is some method to the madness, you could say. So this is a week that we might be able to sort of connect with that energy if we really want to, as opposed to getting drawn into this vortex of busyness and trying to get things to happen and those types of things. So that is something that we could connect with. And on top of that, we also have Venus going through the gate 54, which really talks again to this ability or this potential for some mystical experiences to happen. The gate 54, line 4, is the most mystical of all lines in the whole of the body graph or all the I Ching lines. And what it says is, I'll read it here. It said, it is the most mystical of positions. There is neither an exaltation nor a detriment, for in truth, they are all the same. The Alpha and the Omega, the end and the beginning. There is no description possible. Each planet will manifest this energy uniquely with absolutely no guarantees that its effects will even be perceived. However, the potential is there. This is the fuel for transformation at its purest level. So what this says is that there's potential for us to be mystically transformed, to find something bigger than ourselves, to see beyond the illusion of the Maya, to see that spiritual connection with something that is life force or whatever we believe in. There's a potential to be connecting with that spiritual energy, to connect with our higher selves, to connect with that thing that we're all trying to get a little bit more connected with. And, I think that we're always looking for some level of enlightenment. The other thing that Ra Ruhu said as well was that the more we are trying to help other people find their path or find their direction or find their way, the more we are actually going to be enlightened by that. And I think that that's a beautiful way to show that we can all work together on planet Earth and actually, it's through helping and being of service that we actually get the most mystical moments. And you could say the up leveling of our spiritual nature by actually connecting with other people, seeing what they need, being of service. And when we do, the results can be amazing. And it's not something we're actually looking for. It's just like a beautiful bonus that can come. And in the beginning of the week, Mars is in the gate 1. We talked about that a little bit last week, and we don't have a full channel now. So it's just this idea of trying to express yourself, your individuality. There is no throat energy. So in other words, it may be difficult to describe what you want to contribute. And this is coming from your soul. This is coming from the core of who you are. You want to show the world. You want to share a part of who you are. You want to give what you can creatively or contribute to the collective, a part of who you are, to leave your fingerprints on the collective. The other concept is this idea that you might be just telling everybody, well, I can do this. You just want to show everybody what you have. And because this is projected energy, in other words, it means that if we're not being asked for that information, or we're not being asked for what we have to say or what we want to contribute, or our creative contribution, then ultimately it may not work as we want to. And people may just, say, well, I'm not really interested in what you have to say. But when we're being invited or being acknowledged, and people say, oh, well, what do you have to contribute? Suddenly it's like a bell goes off and people start to hear. With Mars there, it means that there's more of a potential to actually just jump out and start to talk about all the things we can do. And the suggestion would be that even if you want to, just wait for that invitation, because if you wait for that acknowledgement or that invitation, it can work so much better. And it can be so much more beautiful, because when you're talking from the soul, from your soul or the core of your being, and somebody shuts you down, I don't think there's anything that hurts more. So that's why, it's a really good practice if you can do that, just to wait to see. And when the timing is right, the universe and your aura will tell people, okay, I have something that's important to tell. I have something that is important to give to the collective. And that is when people will ask you for what you have to give. And Mercury is also in the gate 14 when we first start out the week. And this is talking about this idea of loving what you do. If you don't love what you do for work, then you may not want to do the job that you're doing anymore. I mean, especially now. Now, it may be good for you to move on to something else, and maybe it's not, but ultimately you have to make the decision, but definitely the urge may be there. So it's something to keep in mind, that if you don't have that ability to actually move to a new job, there might be potential for you to say, I'm not going to do this anymore. And that may not actually work in your favor. And it doesn't mean you can't change. It doesn't mean in the future you can't move to something new, but there might be a better time for you to actually do that. So you're feeling more as if you have the ability to do it. There's also potential for natural luck just to kind of happen, or things just work in your favor, especially if anybody has a gate 2 hanging, or even the full channel, the 14-2, or even just the gate 14. There's potential, but the rest of us, everybody could be able to get a little bit of luck. And the one last thing that I wanted to mention about the nodes and the 2034 in the nodes, right now they are actually in the second line. So the second line is really talking about this independence. And when we think about independence, when we kind of connect that with the 2034 energy, this idea of taking care of yourself and those types of things. So having your own independence might be a theme this week, and feeling that if you don't feel as if you're independent, it may feel uncomfortable for you. You may really want to be looking at how you could be more independent in your life and go your own way if necessary, especially with this individual energy. So that's just one more theme to think about. On November 23rd, we have Jupiter moving into the gate 30 line 1. And I kind of talked about this a little bit last week and the week before, and just moving into the lines of the fates. So we have the gate 30 is the fates. And when we think about the fates, it's like something is getting in our way when we want to do something, whatever that is, an injury or an illness or something that gets in our way when we really want to do something, or we want to move forward on our path. And what this says is that when those things come, because it's the first line, when those kind of things that come, because that's part of life. As we walk through life, obstacles come in our life, and that's part of just being human. And every line has a specific way of how they deal with the obstacles that come in their life. And that's what the fates talk about. I did a full video, so if you want to look at that, and it can help you because it will connect with your profile. If you have the first line, which is being activated this week by Jupiter, that's talking about composure. And that is this idea of instead of raging against the wind, you could say, you see that I'm going to be okay with this. I'm going to work through this. I'm going to wait for something to change. I'm going to wait for the obstacle to move out of my way, or I'm going to try and figure out a way to get through the obstacle. And this is like not saying, okay, well, I'm just never going to do anything again. I'm not going to do this. I'm fed up. I'm going to quit. This is flying in the face of that. It's saying, instead of quitting, instead of getting angry, this is where we say, okay, this is happening. Then I'm going to, instead of getting angry and upsetting myself or ruining my day, I'm going to find a different way. And that way is to understand that this is what's happening and having composure. And eventually what happens is things will shift. It's like where I used to live years ago, is they used to have all this ice that would come in the winter, and it would block in the water. So if you wanted to take a boat out, you couldn't, because of course there was too much ice. Eventually in the spring, all the ice would blow back to where it came from, and people could go out on the water again. But if people said, well, the ice is there, I'm gonna just do it anyway, or I'm never going to go out on the water again, I'm never going to fish, because I grew up in a fishing village. It wouldn't work like that, because that was part of the way, that was part of, you just knew that was going to happen, and you just kind of dealt with it, and that was part of the lifestyle. So that's what this energy is encouraging us to do this week, is to have this composure, to see that we have obstacles in our path, and to kind of be calm and peaceful, and understand that this too shall pass if we're waiting. And patience is a virtue. And I think that's the key. Patience is a virtue. And to remember that if you can. And also on November 23rd, we have Mercury moving into the gate 34. And it's just bringing more emphasis to this idea of this busyness, this power. And let's be honest, like the gate 34 has a lot of power. I talk about it being like a dragon that you have to, in some way, if anybody's watched Game of Thrones, it's like the dragon. How do you tame that dragon? It's so powerful. It's got so much energy. And yet, to find the way that you can actually tame that dragon so that it can be used in a way that's productive rather than being destructive. And that is the energy of the gate 34, because it's just this need to do something. And that's where we get into this point of, we can push our agenda, we can try and make things happen, we can, in some way, the energy could be even bullying, it could be pushing your weight around. It's this powerful kind of pushing against whatever opposition you have, not listening to other people's opinion, and just saying, okay, this is what's going to be. Or it could be this idea of only using your power when you need to, only using this kind of pushing your agenda when it's absolutely necessary, and knowing when enough is enough. And that's the key with the energy of the gate 34, where we have so much of it this week, especially if it's activating some energy in your own body graph. And November 26th, we have Mars moving out of the gate 1 into the gate 43, and we go back to individual energy as well. And that's really talking about this idea of these far-reaching or innovative ideas. With Mars, we want to get them out into the world. So in other words, we're going from this idea of creative contribution from ourselves, and now we're looking at very far-reaching, innovative ideas about the future. Now, this is only from our mind. We haven't actually been able to articulate it yet. And that's the key. You may not have the words, you may just have this sort of knowing. This is a potential for an awareness to wait to see how it all kind of comes in play. So when we have Mars going through, there's potential to have these downloads of information, or these things that, you want to bring into the future, because they're going to be maybe potentially very innovative and very impactful, and to change the trajectory. But the key with these is that we're talking about the ajna, and this is an ajna gate. We're always talking about something that is marinating over time, or it takes time to get the full picture, to get all the pieces to the puzzle so that you can actually articulate it, or what's called assimilation, because it connects to the gate 23, which means you can vocalize it, tell it to other people so that they can help you get your ideas to the next part, so that it can become something other than just something in your mind. So that's the key. It's like, again, this idea that you want to go out and tell people, well, I had this really, innovative idea, and I think it can work, and those types of things. And again, this potential is that people will not listen to you. But when the timing is right, when your aura is ready to deliver it, because that's when sort of everything's come together and it's fully formed, and you have this ability to articulate, and somebody asks you, it's like there, bang, it's like this bell goes off, and you can actually tell people exactly what you want to do, because any of these far-reaching individual ideas, they require more people than just us to get them across. We need people to actually want to help us to get to the next step of whatever process or individuality, to bring it out into collective. So that's something to keep in mind. And then when we get to the end of the week on November 28th, we do have the sun and the earth moving again. And the sun is going to be moving into the gate 9 and the earth into the gate 16. So we're moving from, we've had a lot of individual energy. So in other words, we've had this ability to kind of go into our own selves and be authentic and creative, and to potentially have some level of melancholy, because all individual energy comes with melancholy. Now we're going into this kind of hyper focus energy of the gate 9, which is all about looking at all the details. And sometimes we get so obsessed with the details that we don't see the whole picture. We don't see the big picture of life. And that's what the shadow part of the gate 9 is that we're so hyper focused on all the little details, we can't see anything bigger than that. The key with this energy is potential can be fulfilled when you have detailed attention to the pertinent details. I mean, that's what the I Ching says. In other words, looking at the most important things. And because it's only going to be the gate 9, there's a potential to always be just looking at all the details and not sitting with them, with the gate 52, which would be the harmonic, sitting with the details, having that stillness to actually see, what does this all mean? What's happening here? And what kind of pattern can I get out of it? And this is all logical energy. So we're moving away from the individual energy for the sun and the earth, like I said, moving into the logical energy, which we haven't seen for a couple of weeks now. So it's a much different energy that we potentially might be feeling by the end of the week. And this kind of connection with the patterns of life and the predicting the future. The key is to actually, when we're focusing, to focus on the things that are important if possible, and sometimes to kind of take a step back and say, okay, is this worthwhile? Is this of value? Because you have an open head center and you have the gate 9 being transited by the sun. We have this potential to really get looking at all these things that are actually not valuable to you, that don't matter in the real world. And suddenly you spent an hour on the internet, going from A to B to C, and realize, well, none of that's of any value to me. And maybe I should have been doing something more productive that I'm actually going to get benefit from. So that's something to keep in mind. And we also have the earth in the gate 16. This is enthusiasm. So we're going to be grounded in the enthusiasm, but we're also grounded in the skills that potentially we may have started to look at when the sun was transiting there between May 27th and June 1st of this year, 2021. This is when the sun was transiting the gate 16. And it could have been the time where you started to look at some skills that you may have wanted to start to learn to become a master at, to become a better sort of take them into your skill set and have that extra tool that you can use in your life. And this could be saying, grounding into this idea, yes, I want to continue on with this, or no, it's not for me. Is there potential for the skills that I've been learning, the skills that I've been doing, the skills that I've been kind of trying to master? Is there potential for me to get work with this, or to in some way get abundance from the skills that I've been learning? And that's where we're looking at not just this idea of doing a hobby. We're now looking at this side hustle potentially, or this new skill that we've learned, and saying, okay, how can I make a little bit of money with this? Especially where we're getting close to the holidays, a lot of people might be looking for a little extra money or a way to make extra money at this time. So lots happening, lots of busyness. And again, if we can just find our center amongst the busyness, it'll all work out. And I will see you guys next week. Have a super week and take care. Bye for now.